Computer. Right. Hey everyone, welcome to Intimacy Marketing, Making Millions Without a Large Audience. I am so excited to deliver this training. I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks now, and finally the day is here. And I know many of you are watching this on replay as well. So let me know your takeaways and any questions that you have. And make sure to kind of take notes as well, because I am going to be covering quite a lot. So before I get into the training, I want you to imagine something for a moment. You are in a noisy, crowded room, right? Let's call it social media, the internet. And it feels like no one's really listening, right? Now, that is mass marketing in 2025. A noisy, packed house where everyone is yelling at the same time, right? And that's our current reality, right? Now, I want you to picture or imagine stepping into a quiet lounge where your ideal client is sitting, right? And you start a personal conversation with them, and they lean in and say, wow, you understand me, right? That is intimacy marketing in action. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So, for those of you who are new to my world, I'm Anne Ryan. I help coaches, consultants, and service-based entrepreneurs to scale to multiple six and seven figures through simple, scalable strategies and high-ticket offers, right? So, 6 years ago, I was trying to build this online business while juggling many things in my personal life. I had kids at that point. When I started my first business offline, they were very, very little. They were 2 and 4 year olds. But by the time I came online and started my coaching business, they were teenagers. But one of them had severe mental health challenges. Um, they've subsequently been diagnosed as having bipolar. I had elderly parents who really needed a lot of support and care. My mum got early onset Alzheimer's, and my dad was blind, right? And I was it. I am it when it comes to family here in Melbourne, Australia. There's no one else, right? And also, as I mentioned to you, my husband and I already have an offline business in the construction industry, right? And so I was juggling a lot by the time I came online. And I knew I couldn't build something complex, right? I didn't have the time, the bandwidth, and I had to stop trying to do it all and doing it what appeared to be the right way. And at a point pretty early on, I made a decision to do it my way, right? And build a business that worked around my life, right? And I had to make some really tough decisions. And I made some big mistakes too, which I'm going to be talking about. But I had to keep business really, really simple. For many, many, many years, I only had just one high ticket offer, right? There was no hustling. I didn't have time for that, right? And that's when I kind of discovered, created this concept of intimacy marketing, right? And it didn't really come from a textbook. Parts of it did, certainly parts of it did. And I began speaking very, very directly to people, to my dream clients, right? And creating content that was really quite personal and and shared about my truth and my story and what I was dealing with, right? And engaging in conversations that really resulted in turning, someone who was really quite cold into a client really quite fast, right? And not because I had the perfect funnels, because quite honestly, for the first 5 years of my business, I had no funnels. I barely had any tech. I had a website, and I'll share about that in a moment, but because I was really present. Yeah. And now I run a successful coaching business, and I've been able to build it to multiple six figures working less than 4 hours most days. Some days working 30 minutes. Yeah. My business is lean, it's profitable, and it is deeply fulfilling. I love my business. It fits around my life. Yeah. And today I'm going to be talking about um, why trying to market to everyone is getting you lost in the crowd, and how focusing on a few right people can be the breakthrough that your business needs, right? And this training is not about niching, by the way. Niching is a small part of it. I want this to, as you're watching, if you have any questions, let me know as well. And if this resonates with you, drop a yes, right? So let me now kind of get into the story or get into this training now. I've shared a little bit of a backstory of why this even came about. So, intimacy marketing, I discovered it in a heart. Not from the get-go, quite honestly, right? Even though I sort of said I came online with all of this going on in my personal life, I still was trying to do what everybody else was doing initially, right? I poured a lot of effort into building a website. Biggest waste of time ever, right? I even invested in ads in the early days, right? Thinking I needed a large audience. Biggest waste of money, because I at that point didn't have a proven offer. I didn't have my messaging dialed in. And once you've got those things working really well, then ads is incredibly effective, right? But I did it way too early. I made these mistakes, right? And I spent a lot of money, wasted a lot of money, wasted a lot of time. Yeah, because I had such limited time. It ended up, taking a long time. Like my first year was just wasted on a lot of stuff, right? And meanwhile, I could see that, people were doing different things, right? And I could see that it was working for a particular kind of friend of mine, someone that I'd connected with in my ICF accreditation sort of coaching program, right? But I was sort of like, I was watching and observing what she was doing, but I was thinking, no, 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 that's not for me. That's not my way of doing it. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to, just rely on attraction marketing because, that's kind of going to be the most effective way for me. And don't misunderstand me, attraction marketing is incredibly effective. And I'm going to be talking about that more as well, right? I realized that more eyes doesn't automatically mean more success. Yeah. Especially when it comes to high ticket offers and sales. Instead, deeper trust is the key. So let me like clarify a few things, right? Because the biggest misconception out there or myth is that you need a large audience. You do not need a huge audience to make millions, right? I know that goes against what a lot of what we see online, but it's the truth. You don't need to go viral to fill your high-end programs. In fact, viral does not result in sales. It's just attention, right? The smaller niches, and I said this wasn't a training about niches, right? But still, the smaller niches, the smaller, more niched audiences often convert far better than the bigger ones because their followers feel a personal connection and they trust them that, broad marketing simply can't create that level of trust, right? So you can stop worrying about reaching millions of people, right? You can actually make millions by creating a small following. There's this marketer called Seth Godin who teaches this concept as well. And he talks about focus on your smallest viable audience. It's far better to be important to a few rather than irrelevant to many, right? So this concept has been around for a while. This is just a new approach to it, right? And in other words, depth, the depth of the connection, the depth of the conversations beats width, talking to the masses. All right. Now, I know because clients, when they come to work with me, they have these similar concerns that, you might be thinking, but I don't have the time, Anne. I don't have the time for that kind of personal connection. I get it. You're busy running your business and life, but intimacy marketing isn't about spending more time. It's about spending time on what actually moves the needle, right? One of my clients swore, you know, that she had no time for one-on-one marketing, right? She was busy posting on social media and she was quite honestly getting crickets. And she was trying to sell a high ticket offer. I challenged her to spend just 15 minutes a day genuinely checking in with her warm contacts. Just 15 minutes a day. A quick email, a DM, a, a phone conversation, offering a bit of value, that kind of thing. 15 minutes a day. 2 weeks later, she had 3 sales calls booked in and two new $15,000 clients, right? In just 2 weeks, 15 minutes a day. Those 15 minutes a day did more for her business than all her posting. And she was very focused on LinkedIn. Yeah. Like we had a laugh about it afterwards. This is the power of intimacy marketing. So when people say, I don't have the time, I say, yes, you do. Stop scrolling on social media. Stop consuming everybody else's content. Set aside 15 minutes, not five, 15 minutes a day and build deeper connections with people, and you will get much better results. This is not to say don't post content, but you don't need to post multiple pieces of content, right? This connection far outweighs the benefits of posting multiple pieces of content all the time, or definitely far more effective than consuming content, right? Other people's content. 15 minutes a day. The other thing that I hear is, I need a bigger audience to hit my goal. I need more leads, right? And that also is such a myth in this online space. Maybe you feel like you only have like a few hundred followers. I can't possibly make millions until I have tens of thousands, right? And that's bullshit. That is not true. Quality trumps quantity any day of the week, right? I've personally seen coaches with an audience of, let's say, 1,000 in this particular example, have multiple six-figure launches, while someone with 50,000, right, followers struggled to sell a $997 course. I worked with that client because the smaller list has real relationships behind it. So let me share this example, right? A coach I mentored had about 1,000 people in her audience, right? Not huge by internet standards, right? But they were nurtured, right? They were warm, and there was genuine connection there, right? She was replying to messages, she was hosting small Zoom sessions, she'd do Q&As, she offered a lot of value. When she launched a premium offer, a 30K offer, which we created together, she personally invited some of those 1,000 people to consider this offer, right? She filled 6 spots, a 30K offer. She made $180,000 in 8 weeks from exactly the same small audience, right? Without even doing any great launch. She just did personal connection. Meanwhile, the other example that I shared, she had a huge social media following, right? But her audience was so incredibly cold. She had no personal connection with them. She had an audience of over 50,000, right? And she even struggled to sell low ticket offers. She was selling a $997 course and she couldn't get anyone to buy it, right? So please do not buy into the bullshit that bigger audience equals more money, because that is not true. A smaller audience that trusts you will outperform a huge audience that barely knows you every time, right? And another thing that I hear is, can't I just rely on attraction marketing, right? Just posting content and let clients come to me. Isn't that what it's all about on social media? Yeah. I absolutely love attraction marketing and it is incredibly effective for me. Who doesn't want clients coming in, yeah, from great content? It's effective. Don't get me wrong, right? But here's the truth. Content alone is very passive, right? If all you do is just post and then hope, pray that, then you are leaving money on the table. I'm not saying it doesn't work, it does, but you are leaving money on the table if you just stop there. Algorithms might decide not to show your post to the right people. You have no control over this, right? Even people who follow you might scroll by unless you actively engage them. Yeah. Think of attraction marketing like putting up a billboard on a busy highway. Yeah. You hope the right people drive fast and notice it. Yeah. And then they take action. That's the next part. Yeah. Intimacy marketing is like inviting the exact right person to coffee. Yeah. You sit down face to face, have a real conversation, and they say, that's exactly what I've been looking for. Yeah. Now, that's just an example. I'm not saying you have to have coffee dates with with everyone in your audience, right? But I'm just trying to explain the difference between mass marketing and intimacy marketing. Yeah. So I mentioned to you about that client who had over 50,000 followers, right? And she was putting out great content, quite honestly, really good content, really good branding. And she got lots of likes, comments. She had a pretty kind of what seemed like an engaged audience, but she wasn't converting them, right? And she was waiting and hoping those people who were commenting would magically turn into buyers, right? So we made one tweak. She created her dream client list, right? Out of her huge audience, right? She created her dream client list and started to engage in their content in a really meaningful way. No pitching. She was engaging in their content, right? Just engagement. Sometimes there were DM conversations. Within 1 month, these women who were previously kind of quiet fans, potentially, right? But just not making that commitment. Yeah. Um, they became clients. She signed up multiple high ticket clients from those chats. At that particular time, she was selling a 997 type offer, right? Because instead of passively hoping attraction marketing would do all the work, she actively built relationships. Now, this is even more effective when it's higher ticket, right? Because it's not viable with a low ticket solution. It's not. And that 997 kind of price point is that sort of borderline price point. Yeah, where is it even viable to be building these kinds of connections, right? But I'm talking about higher ticket. So yes, keep creating content. It's important, but don't only create content. Pair it with this personal connection. That combo of marketing is where, results happen fast. It's the highest converting solution. Now, the other thing you may be thinking is, but the big name coaches, the big name coaches, they're not doing this. They're not connecting so intimately with their clients. So what if, so why should I do it if they're not doing it? They're saying it's not necessary. Here's the thing, right? Let's be really honest here. You're seeing those big names at chapter 20 of their business story, right? They're not on chapter 5 or chapter 1 or even chapter 10, right? Back when they were at chapter 1, I guarantee you they were building relationships. In fact, many of those leaders still emphasize community and personal touch, but they just might do it through teams, right? Or events. Yeah. They create the intimacy through events and through having teams. Like I have team members that support me as well, right? Because I don't have as much time. But what I'm sharing here is whether you're doing it or whether it's a team member doing it, this is important, right? This level of connection to really stand out, to build that deeper connection with people, right? Everyone started by engaging deeply with people. For example, Gary Vaynerchuk, if you've heard of him, he's a huge entrepreneur, a huge marketer, not really a coach per se, but a personal brand, right? He spent years, he says, in the early days replying personally to every single email and tweet. Personally, right? He's talked about how that one-on-one engagement was the foundation for the empire that he has today. So when you sort of think that big names don't do this, remember they did what they had to do when they were first starting out, right? They've earned the inbound flow now, right? It hasn't always been this way, but sometimes it gets lost in the marketing, right? It's like me saying, "Well, I don't do sales calls anymore." But I did. I got to multiple six figures by doing sales calls. But I've earned this now. I've built the reputation, I've built the trust, I have the social proof that I don't need to do the things that I used to do. But still, even today, if someone would like to get hop on a sales call, I will. And even today, I still build these personal connections. I still have my dream list of clients who I engage with, who I connect with. Yeah. So if you're in your building phase, this is something to seriously consider, and even through your scaling phase, right? If you want to make millions with a small audience, this is the way. In today's crowded market, personal connection is your biggest advantage, right? Most people aren't willing to do it. Yeah. Which is exactly why you should. While others are automating or outsourcing that kind of human touch, you'll stand out by being genuinely connected, right? All right, so now we've talked about all of those sorts of things. Um, let's get into the how. How do you actually do intimacy marketing in a way that's effective and still scalable? So I'm going to walk you through a few key elements step by step, right? So, number one, instead of casting a wide net with a billboard, you know, that example that I provided, we're going to invite people to coffee, right? Not physically, but metaphorically, right? So this starts with kind of getting super clear about who your dream premium client is. I want you to think beyond demographics, right? Really get like, you know who you would like to work with, and you know who these people are, where they're hanging out, right? What industry are they in? What keeps them awake? Like, really understand everything about them. You know, what do they secretly want that maybe they haven't even said out loud yet? Get super specific in understanding them. Yeah. When you know exactly who you are speaking to, you can tailor your message to make that person feel like you are speaking just to them. Your marketing stops being about everyone and becomes something that people just can't ignore, right? So, from a tactical perspective, this might mean doing things that don't scale to millions, right? Initially, but scale beautifully to your target 100 or 1,000 people. Yeah. Scaling looks different at different stages too. And trying to scale to your first million the way someone else is scaling to their first eight figures is never going to work, right? So rather than sending out a generic newsletter, for example, right, to people who don't even open them, you might send a personalized note to 50 people, right? Addressing them by name, offering a very specific solution to a problem that you know they have. Or if you're used to running, you know, masterclasses, webinars, that kind of thing, right? And most of your attendees typically, are quietly just watching, you could host a much more intimate experience, right? Where you only invite 5 people to a round table on Zoom, your hottest prospects, yeah, and have real conversations, real, meaningful, intimate conversations, right? The wonderful irony is that this approach is actually scalable in its own way. Because when you give even a handful of people that level of personalized experience, they become your raving fans. And what do raving fans do? They tell other people, right? They refer friends. They sell for you. Yeah. They basically become your unofficial sales team. That's intimacy marketing. Yeah. So focusing on a small group of the right people can create a much bigger ripple effect than trying to reach the masses, like you may be doing right now. Yeah. Second thing, people decide to invest at a higher level when they trust you and feel that you truly get them. So, how do we create that kind of trust quickly? Humans are wired to connect with those who make us feel understood, right? Tell me, is this you? Do you like to feel understood or do you like to just feel like a number in the crowd? Yeah. So when a potential client kind of starts talking to you, you want them to feel like you're you're reading my mind. Yeah. And that immediately builds trust. They feel seen. They trust that you can help them instantly. Yeah. I've had people saying to me things like, I don't know why I'm even telling you all of this. I just feel like you get me. Yeah. That's because they trust me. They're telling me their deepest, darkest secrets that they haven't told anyone else. Yeah. And the key is to show genuine compassion and understanding and share your story. I share my story all the time about the highs, the lows, the ebbs, the flows. I don't have my shit together all the time, but I'm still a leader. But people kind of like go, if she can do it with all of those things going on, then I can too. Rather than, oh, she's got it all together. Therefore, how the heck am I going to do it? Right? They want to feel understood. And that's how you build trust, right? Trust isn't built by talking about your credentials. It's built by emotions, by feeling understood and cared for. So lead every interaction, your content, your calls, your emails from a place of that kind of compassion. Yeah. Make them feel like they're not alone and that you get them. Number three, in this world of like copy paste, you know, whether it's happening in the DMs or, you know, copying and pasting what AI is sprouting out. Yeah. Specificity is your friend. Your ideal clients has seen all the vague promises, the fluffy marketing jargon, right? So you want them to read your stuff and think like, wow, she's talking to me. That's exactly for me. So how do we do that? We do that by using their own language and speaking to very specific scenarios. So, for example, you could say, I help entrepreneurs improve their business, which is generic and boring, right? Or you could say, I help burnt out six-figure health coaches who are sick and tired of 60-hour weeks to double their revenue while cutting their work time in half. If a burnt out health coach hears that, sees that, reads that, they practically jump out of their seat knowing that you can help them. It's like you are reading their mind. I literally keep a little Google Doc of phrases that my clients use when they're venting. Yeah. Their exact words. Then I use these phrases in my content. And when they read it, it hits differently, right? It hits differently. That people feel understood. I once sent an email and listed out a day in the life of a coach struggling to scale. And I got so many replies from that email, with like, were you spying on me? You know, people were half joking, but half relieved as well that they're not alone. That email brought in so many calls because the readers, so many booked calls, right? Because that was a call to action. If this is you. This was a few years ago in the early days when I was talking to the sort of newer coach. I totally knew their reality, right? So don't be afraid to niche down your language, to get really specific, to speak to one person's heart in your post, not to an enormous audience or crowd, right? It will repel those who aren't a fit, and that is perfect. But it will deeply attract the ones who are. And when it comes to positioning yourself as the only choice, because that's what we want to be in a category of one, highlight what makes you different in a way that matters to your client. Yeah. Maybe every other coach in your space is selling some sort of cookie cutter online course or solution, and you offer a high touch one-to-one program. Say that, make it really clear. If you're tired of just another face in a huge group and hoping for your turn on a hot seat, in my program, you get my hands-on attention every single week. That is specific messaging. That's setting you apart from the other coaches who might be running a completely different program. Suddenly, for someone who's felt lost in those masses, in those big group programs, you become the obvious choice. But if you're not saying these things, they don't know, right? So be specific, speak to the outcome and what's unique about what you do, right? Moving on. I'm mindful of time. Number four, high ticket clients don't just buy a service, they buy trust in you, right? We've already talked about trust, but this is such an important thing. They need to feel, not just think, that you are the, the right person. They need to feel it, right? So to create that sense of trust, I think of three C's. Three. Clarity, confidence, conviction. Clarity is so important, to be crystal clear about who you help and what results you offer. This is basic stuff, right? This is basic stuff, but still, so many people don't do this. No one trusts a muddled up message, right? If you can't clearly explain your own offer, how can they feel sure about investing? So, clarity in your communication everywhere from your bio on social media through to the sales call is absolutely key. You know, and and we've got to drop the jargon, especially the coach jargon, right? And the 10 paragraphs that nobody has time to read. Clear and simple always, always trumps over clever, right? Confidence. Speaking about your offer in a calm, grounded, confident way. Yeah. No need to hype it all up, right? Or to be arrogant about it. But we need to have that confidence, that certainty, right? If you are hesitating in your language and say, even, I think I can help, or you apologize for your prices, clients will instantly feel that uncertainty. Yeah. They want to feel like, all right, she's got this, and this is exactly what I need. Yeah. Show up like you know the value you deliver, because you do. You do, right? Your confidence in your work helps them feel confident in you. And that's what gets the yes. Yeah. And finally, conviction. This is the passion part, right? Your genuine belief in your mission and in the transformation that you provide is something that people buy too. Let your people feel that you really truly care about the work, about their results. Conviction shines through when you talk about why you do what you do. Yeah. Let people hear that. We need to share our why over and over and over again, because new people are coming into our world all the time. It's not something that you just explain once. Yeah. And authenticity, right? This is where authenticity really, really comes in as well. And conviction is contagious, you know? It inspires trust because people can see, they can tell that you're not just in this for a sale. You don't just want the money. You genuinely care. You want to make a difference. This is your life's work. This is your calling. You are so, so passionate. Yeah. What else? When you consistently communicate with this level of clarity, confidence, and conviction, you create this kind of, that's when trust is built, right? Your audience may not consciously say it, but they'll feel it. I just feel I can rely on this person. It's a feeling that they get, right? And the feeling is everything, especially when it comes to women. High ticket decisions are often made from the gut, right? If your ideal clients are typically male, it might be slightly different. They are a little bit more logically minded, right? But most women, they might use a little bit of logic as well, but they very much make decisions from how they feel. So your job is to give them the the feeling that says, yes, you know, she can help me. She's safe. I trust her. All right, moving on. We know who to, who to talk to, how to speak their language, and how to convey trust, right? So the final piece is to actually connect with these premium clients and start relationships. This is where the dream clients who may be on the fence actually say yes. And I know for some of you, this is the scary part, right? What you mean, I actually have to talk to people? Yes, right? And this is never about cold DMing, never about cut and paste messaging, right? This is about genuine connection. And it's incredibly rewarding. You are not reaching out to people to bother them or to beg them to buy your offer. Never, right? You're a skilled professional with an amazing gift and you are offering to help someone who needs it. It's like you're holding something incredibly valuable behind your back and saying, hey, I have something that could really help you out. Would you like to see it? Right? And this kind of a conversation comes after you've built the connection, right? So you don't go from someone just liking your comment to, hey, I think I can help you. No, that's not how it works, right? This is about really, truly connecting, being of service, um, you know, engaging in their content, find where your ideal clients hang out, whether it's on Facebook, on LinkedIn. You know, I only do this within my own world, right? Like inside of my personal profile, inside of my groups. And I have my list. I have my list of my dream clients, and that's who I focus on, right? But generally speaking, I reply to comments, to everyone's comments. I answer questions. I go and engage on other people's content and really celebrate them, not in a fake way, in a really genuine human way, right? Over time, this is noticed. And when you do reach out in the DMs, it's warm. It's not like, who the heck is this person who's trying to help me? They're like, oh my gosh, you know, thank you for reaching out because it is genuine. Personal invitations can be incredibly effective. If you have something going on, whether it's a masterclass, a free training, whatever it is, a new podcast episode, whatever, right? Letting people know about it. It can be as simple as sending a DM or a voice message that says, hey, Anne, I was thinking about you when I created this workshop. I think you would love it. Would you like me to send you the link? You know, I'd love to see you there personally if you have the time. I just wanted to let you know this was happening because, hey, I can't rely on the algorithm. Social media, who knows what people are seeing? That kind of a personal message is incredibly effective. Do you know how rare that is in today's world when everything is so automated, when everything is so cut and pasted? Yeah. I've literally sent a dozen people personal invites like this to an event and had an incredible turnout because of how personal it was. Yeah. People told me I showed up mainly because you invited me. Some of you experienced this when I did my 5-day six-figure sales intensive. I really personalized that entire approach. Yeah. Every single day, 22 people showed up on Zoom. I had the most active Facebook group. Everyone was engaging, you know, and that resulted in a $35,000 week. 1 week, 1 week of effort. That was the result from taking a very personal approach. Yeah. Um, the one-on-one conversations, ultimately, our goal is to really get into real conversations, right? And that might be to schedule a sales call down the track. It might be just going back and forth in the DMs. However it happens, like lean into it. And again, this is not mass marketing. This is not speaking to 1,000 people in your audience. This is not cut and pasting the same message. I'm talking about a select few people, right? Your dream list. That's who I'm talking about, right? Listen more than even talking. Understand people. Yeah. Um, Maybe you give them a quick tip or a piece of advice. This is not about free coaching either, if you're in the coaching space, right? But sometimes it's okay. It's okay to give them a little bit, and they'll walk away with like, wow, if I got this much from, a free conversation, imagine the support I'll get when I'm in the program. Yeah. And the most important thing is this is a slightly longer game, but it doesn't actually take a long time, right? So keep the connection going. Don't just connect once and the conversation fizzles out. You know, keep going back to your list and keep that conversation going and reconnect. Yeah. That's when it goes deeper. Um, you know, use references to previous conversations. Maybe you check in on them and say, hey, I remember you had that big presentation. How did it go? These little acts of remembering and caring are huge because hardly anyone does that, right? This is intimacy marketing, right? Not because you're following up to close a sale, right? But because you genuinely care and you didn't forget. That's how connections eventually become clients, and even longer term partnerships. And at the end of the day, high ticket sales are really just high trust conversations. Yeah. So focus on starting more conversations and really deepening them. And if you do that, I promise you, the sales will naturally follow and it won't even feel like selling. It'll just feel like helping a friend. Yeah. So we've covered a lot of ground. I know this is a big mindset shift from how many people do online marketing, right? But I want you to pause and reflect for a second. Picture, say, I don't know, in 6 months from now, you've implemented even a fraction of what we've talked about. just picture having a small, tight-knit community of clients and prospects who feel like they truly know you and vice versa, right? You wake up to messages from people thanking you because your content felt like it was made just for them. And when you hop on a Zoom call with a potential client, they already talk to you like, you know, they know you. By the end, they're saying, all right, I'm in. How do we start? Yeah. This isn't some fantasy scenario. This is exactly how my business looks behind the scenes. This is what really happens when you prioritize real connection over mass marketing, right? When you shift from chasing vanity metrics to really nurturing people, that becomes the foundation of a multi-six and seven-figure business. I've seen it with my own eyes again and again and again, and this is exactly what my clients are doing too, right? The environment has changed online, right? Business has changed. People are craving this kind of genuine approach. So let's be honest, the old way of online marketing, with giant funnels and endless email sequences and impersonal copy and paste tactics, they're not working. They are not working, right? And consumers, including your potential clients, have gotten a lot more savvy. Yeah. They've had made bad choices and had bad experiences. And they can sniff out a AI template or a generic sales pitch a mile away. Yeah. And they tune out. I can tell immediately when someone is following a script because I learnt that same script, right? They want, they desperately want real conversations, real connections. They want to do business with someone who actually cares, who gives a shit about them. When you show up in someone's world with authenticity and personal attention, like I've been talking about on this training today, seriously, it it you will stand apart from everyone else on the internet. No algorithm can can take away this strategy, right? No amount of mass marketing, no noise, right? Because this is genuine and it's rare. Yeah. And it doesn't need to take long. I'm talking 15 minutes a day. Yeah. So right now, you have two choices. Actually, you have three. You can, keep trying to play the mass marketing game, and keep going as you're doing, right? Nothing changes. Or you can give this a go. Take, give intimacy marketing a go and focus on building deeper connections and really seeing the results of this, right? Um, there's nothing more rewarding than building a business that is, like it's so cool when you work with clients that you absolutely love, right? It never feels like work. Yeah, it turns your work into like so much more meaningful transactions. Yeah. And yes, you make money. This is how you make money from it, right? This is not just about, having chats in coffee chats. This is what leads to clients. Yeah. So my challenge for you is in the next 24 to 48 hours, like give this a go, right? Do something tangible. Send a message, send some voice notes to people, right? Not random people, but people that you've already potentially built connections with. And if you haven't built those connections, then start building the connections, right? Um, Rewrite your social media bios, make them way more specific. Really think, how can you go even more micro? How can you get even more specific? I promise you, this is the solution, right? Maybe it's looking at your calendar and carving out 15 minutes every single day to actually do some reach outs, right? Like I've talked about. Whatever resonates, do something. Don't waste this hour. Yeah. Take action. And if you like the sound of this and you'd like to find out more, if you'd like support to implement all of this because you are ready to scale, yeah, you're tired of doing it alone, you want to scale to multiple six, seven figures, and like all the strategies that I've talked about, there's so much more to it. Yeah. I know I've covered a lot, but this is the work that I do. This is exactly how I support my clients. And send me a DM to find out more. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and let me know if you have any questions at all.